What's up, Pirate Nation, and welcome to Hall Talk, the student-run sports talk show here at Seton Hall. Today, John Fanta will be sitting down with Colltey Sheldon, the Seton Hall women's softball first baseman. Before that, David Heim will be giving us a weekly rundown, updating us on the most recent Seton Hall sports. After that, all three of them will be joining me for our special segment, Chalk Talk. We'll be talking all about the numbers. Tonight, we'll be breaking down the March Madness men's Final Four matchups between UConn and Florida and Wisconsin and Kentucky. First off, I'll send it over to Dave with this week's rundown.
What's up, Pirate Nation? I'm David Heim, and here is your weekly rundown. The baseball team went 5-1 last week, beating St. Peter's 11-3, Iona 8-0, Central Connecticut 2-0, Rider 4-3, and losing to Central Connecticut 7-1. In their most recent game against Princeton, the Pirates sported a 7-0 lead in the bottom of the 8th before a shaky bullpen allowed the Tigers to claw back into the game at 7-6. However, the Pirates' offense exploded in the top of the 9th, and the Pirates were able to run away with the 13-6 victory. Freshman Anthony Pasillo allowed only one hit over 7 scoreless innings in the win. From here, the 20-5 Pirates will travel to Indianapolis to take on the Butler Bulldogs in their first Big East Conference games of the season. The softball team only had one game last week in which they saw all 3 of their games at Villanova last weekend canceled due to inclement weather. Against Rutgers on Tuesday, the Pirates saw the Scarlet Knights score 12 runs in a 12-5 loss. Tied at 2 after 4 innings, the Pirates' pitching was unable to slow down the Scarlet Knights, as Jen Metzger and Lauren Fisher combined to give up 9 of the Pirates' Rutgers' 12 runs. The Pirates will now travel to Chicago this weekend, where they will take on DePaul. The women's soccer team will continue its spring schedule on Saturday, April 5th against Columbia and Lafayette. The men's golf team will take part in the Red Hawk Invitational on Monday, April 7th and Tuesday the 8th, while the women's golf team will play in the Pirate Invitational on Saturday, April 5th and Sunday, April 6th. For your weekly rundown, I'm David Heim.
Hall Talk is brand new to the Seton Hall Pirate TV empire. But just like any new TV program, there's going to be some kinks that the crew and talent need to work out.
Hey Fanta, so what's on the script for today?
Says here we're starting with Seton Hall soccer, and then the basketball team's upcoming schedule. What is this? I thought this was a show about fashion.
No, John. This is a show about sports, not fashion.
What? I didn't sign up for this crap.
After the first couple of run-throughs, things started to look up for the guys.
So is Fanta going to keep talking to the camera like that?
And that's going to wrap it up for Hall Talk. I'm John Fanta. Join us next week when I'll discuss my passion for Starbucks, the Oprah Network, and how I still live with my mom. Wait, what?
But in the end, we were able to make a really great show that I thought turned out pretty well.
That's going to wrap it up for Hall Talk. We'll see you same time, same place, next Thursday.
Clear.
I'm switching my major to journalism.
You got that right. The best part about this time of year is that teams get to get back on the diamond. It is softball season for the Seton Hall Pirates. The Pirates are 3-0 in Big East play, and with the clean slate in conference play, they take that unbeaten record, and they will head to Chicago to take on the DePaul Blue Demons this weekend in Big East action. And I am alongside the Pirates' Colltey Sheldon. Colltey hitting .254 on the season, part of an offense that is hitting .277, an offense that hit over 300 on their spring break trip to Florida. Colltey, thank you so much for joining us on Hall Talk.
You're welcome.
We look at the season thus far with this team, and you've talked about it time and again, just how once Big East play begins, everything intensifies. You went through some tough times in the non-conference schedule, and yes, you went 6-20, but it's more about the record. What's it like to have that clean slate now in Big East play?
Big East play is a different caliber, I feel like, for us. The preseason tournaments, that's all practice games. That's how we see it. Big East play, that's what we're here for. It's what we work for all year long. So I think it's huge to have a clean slate because now this is where we get to start over everything. You know, like all the failures that we had, it's just a learning experience. So now we're starting back over. We're learning from that, and we're going to get back on it and get ready to go.
This offense has really been a stronghold for this team. Coach Paige Smith was very pleased with it on the Florida spring break trip. The offense hit right around 300. You're at 277 overall as an offense. What's been your approach at the plate for this team?
As a team, I think we go in there with a plan. Coach always talks about that. So, we go up to the plate knowing the pitcher, her tendencies, things like that. But we also go in thinking, all right, see the ball, hit the ball, basically. Go in there knowing that we're better than anybody else. So it's all about a plan, and that's what we do.
For you, you've had to make a transition to first base this season, going from the outfield over there. At the same time, Coach Smith has said any one of our players has to be ready to fill any type of a role. And that's been something that's been used in the middle of the infield, which has had some ups and downs, but Coach Smith has had to move pieces and parts around. What's it been like for you to day in, day out be ready for anything? Because you could be going from first base to right field.
For me, it was definitely a change. It was different. I've never played first base in my entire life. I've played infield before. I played second growing up. So, I don't know. It was different, but I like it. I like knowing different positions. I think it makes you a better overall player. But I think it was difficult at first, but I'm getting the hang of it. So I like it. Just different.
Now, one of the hardships of playing in the Northeast is the weather, of course. But at the same time, what you do get a chance to do is take that spring break trip, and you took it down to Florida, and this team had a lot of travel in the early season. How does that help a group like you guys?
We love travel. We love it. We think it's fun. We all bond a lot. I know we love plane rides. We love going down to different places. I think it helps us grow, too, as a team. Our camaraderie gets better. Everything kind of grows. I think, too, it's good to play in different places. I think if we were here, obviously, we wouldn't be playing. You know what I mean? So going down there, getting games in, experience. I mean, we played a lot of pretty good teams in the first half of the season. So I think it taught us a lot, but I also think it was good to go down and get some games in.
You look at the DePaul Blue Demons and what you have this weekend. This is a team that has mostly controlled the series with you guys since 2009. They are 20-8 now. They've broken through the 20-win threshold. They're actually taking on Notre Dame before they face off with you guys. This is a very good program.
Right.
Just how do you approach them going into the weekend?
I think we approach them as we do any other team. We don't really focus on their wins or loss record, because I think when you step on the field, anyone can take a game at any time. So I think we focus on how their pitchers pitch and how the defenses that they run, and we go in and play our game. And if we play our best game, I feel like we can compete and beat anyone at any time. So it's more focus on ourselves rather than focusing on them.
Let's look at your lineup, and let's look at a player like Yazzie Harrell. At this point in the season now, hitting over 350, and at the leadoff position has really gotten this lineup going. What do you feel it is about her that makes her such a special player, just as a young player as well?
I think a lot that Yazzie has to offer is she's really smart. She's a smart softball player. She knows the game really well. She also is one that plays, infield and outfield too, so she understands different defenses. Her speed has a lot to do with it too. She puts the ball in play. It causes chaos for a lot of the defenses because they have to be quick all the time. If you slack on her, she's going to be safe, and there she goes, So I think that has a lot to do with it, and she's a good player. I mean, she's just good. It's what it is.
What's your favorite part about playing for this program?
My favorite part, I think, is always having – Coach always tells us, there's always something new to learn. Softball is a game that every day it starts over, so – I think that's the best part about it. I love knowing that, you have a bad day one day, the next day you can have a great day. And I think Coach really stresses that a lot, too. So it's good knowing that you have a support system in your coaching staff as well as your teammates.
The Pirates will put their unbeaten conference record on the line this weekend in the Windy City, taking on DePaul and standing at 3-0. As we talked about, nice to have that 3-0 record in conference play.
Yes, it is.
Colltey Sheldon with me here on Hall Talk on Pirate TV. Colltey, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks, John.
Hey, and welcome to Chalk Talk, the segment where we talk all about the numbers. Tonight, we'll be breaking down the men's March Madness Final Four. I'm joined alongside David Heim and John Fanta, and also our special guest today is Colltey Sheldon. We'll be having a softball player give us her opinion on men's basketball. Guys, first off, we're going to be breaking down the Final Four. Obviously, we have UConn versus Florida and Wisconsin versus Kentucky. What really intrigues me about UConn and Florida, they did meet on December 2nd. UConn was number 12 in the nation at the time. Florida was 15. UConn won on a Shabazz Napier buzzer beater, 65-64. He ended up finishing with 26 points. Patrick Young of Florida had 17 points and 7 rebounds. This is the third time in each program's history they're meeting. The only other time besides December 2nd was in 1994 in the Sweet 16, and Florida won 69-60. Now, what I brought in was the big three of UConn: Napier, Boatwright, and Daniels. And then from Florida, the big three: Wilbekin, Young, and Frazier II. We know how skilled the guard play is of UConn, led by senior Shabazz Napier. What do you guys think, and what is the big number to look at this one? We'll start with you, John, on UConn and Florida.
The big number that I'm going to be looking at is Florida with a plus 2.4 turnover margin. They know how to turn you over, but can they figure out a way to turn over a ball handler like Shabazz Napier? The way that he's playing right now is beyond the numbers. And I know this is all about numbers, but 23 points per game, but he causes so much else in that offense. And I think what you have to do is an approach right now. He's playing at such an elite level, David, that in defending Napier, he's going to score his points. You've got to figure out a way to stop his counterparts. I think that Florida has the advantage down low. They've got rebounders across the board. UConn doesn't have that kind of size. But how do you think Florida approaches defending Napier? Because you double him, he's going to pass it off, and they're hitting right now.
It's going to be a great matchup to see, John, but the number that stands out for me is this one right here, and that's Daniel's 6.7 rebounds per game. Mm-hmm. You look across the other side, Patrick Young. I've said it from the beginning of the tournament, the guy is a defensive mismatch. Nobody wants to play him. No one wants to go up against him. Is Daniels going to be able to keep up his 6.7 rebounds per game? Because you're counting on Young keeping up with his. So I think the matchup down low, like John said, is going to be a huge factor in this game.
What I got to say is don't get sold on Patrick Young's height. The average height UConn has seen throughout the tournament, 6'8". Patrick Young, 6'10", of course. But the big men have been doing much damage to UConn. And you look at their last game, they did take care of Adrian Payne.
That is correct.
And Dawson of Michigan State. They did a great job, and you can't argue that one. Colton.
Correct.
What do you think on this one? What's your number?
Jump right in there.
My number to look at? Well, I would say Shabazz Napier. I think he's running UConn's offense marvelously lately. I think he's shown what kind of player he can be. He's gone from a draft pick of 57 all the way up to a top 20 just by his performance in the tournament this year. So I think he's going to be a huge factor in whether UConn can get their offense rolling or not.
And I know, John, this will get you going. Of course, you have Kevin Ollie, second year at the head of the helm for UConn. Last time he was in the Final Four, he was an assistant coach to Jim Calhoun. Mm-hmm. Shabazz Napier was a freshman. Of course, that was Kemba Walker, and when he took it all the way for UConn. And you have Donovan of Florida. I know you're a big fan of him. Tell me, what do you look at between these two coaches?
Well, first off, and you look at the act that he had to follow. Kevin Ollie had to follow legend Jim Calhoun. Mm-hmm. But he said it last weekend at the Garden time and again, I'm here to do things the Kevin Ollie way. And it wasn't in a cocky way. It was in a humble way. It was in the right way, a professional way. He makes a positive out of every negative. Here's the facts of the matter. Here's a by the numbers type of thing for you. UConn's academic progress rates were at a point where they were so low that they got banned from the NCAA tournament last year. Those kids had to sit and they couldn't even watch the NCAA tournament because they were so torn up about how their season went. He is the first coach in program history in his first 2 seasons to give this program 50 wins. 50 wins in his first 2 seasons. After one of them was meaningless. He got these kids to stay. They've stayed, and now they're getting rewarded for it. On the other side, you think of Jim Boeheim, Bill Self, Mike Krzyzewski, and so on, so on, so on. Billy Donovan deserves to be in that category. The guy has been absolutely automatic, has been able to produce 4 straight Elite 8 teams back at the Final Four, guys, regardless of what happens this weekend. Elite level head coach, and then Ollie, special story. I mean, I can't say much more about this coaching matchup. You want to define special, it's outstanding.
I think the big thing to look at is the road that both these teams went through. Yeah. UConn, they beat Villanova, Iowa State, and Michigan State. And of course, in the first round, they saw St. Joe's, who took them into the overtime, ended up winning 89-80. Yeah. Of course, Florida, kind of a little easier walk. They saw Albany in the first round. Wasn't really that big of a test. They saw Dayton. Dayton was a Cinderella story, but Florida has simply just mismatched them the whole time on the court.
The only test about Albany is looking at those shorts.
Exactly. I got to agree with that purple and the yellow. It gets pretty tough.
I don't know who made those.
All right, guys. So between UConn and Florida, John, we'll start with you. Who do you got in the battle of these two teams?
2 heavyweights, 2 teams that know just a little bit of something about being in this role. UConn not a typical powerhouse, but playing with nothing to lose. They got the guy to carry them right now, Napier, but I'm sticking with Florida. Michael Frazier II is huge in this game. He needs to open up Florida's offense. UConn only allowed 6 points in the paint to Michigan State, to Adrian Payne. He brings the paint. What UConn has to do is they have to figure out a way to keep Florida's offense from opening up. If Frazier II's hitting, if they're hitting from the perimeter, Florida they can't lose because they've already got the post factors down low. I'm going to take Florida.
I've said from the beginning Florida is the best team in this tournament. I picked them to win it all. They're actually the only one of my Final Four teams that I currently have alive. UConn, great story. They needed a coach to come after Jim Calhoun. They have him. He's the guy, but I just don't think they're there quite yet to beat a team like Florida. Best team in the country. They've proved that. It's going to be close. Just you got to give respect to UConn. I think they're going to come out and their guys are going to be ready to play, but I'm going to take Florida.
All right. So we got 2 Florida. Colltey, what's your pick?
You know, I think, hurts me to say this, but I think I'm going to go with Florida too. I think UConn's offense is so good, but I just think Florida is just going to overpower them.
I mean, I guess I'm the lone wolf with this crew.
Wow.
I'm really sold on Kevin Ollie and Shabazz Napier and his massive play. And, I mean, someone's got to give me a wolf howl because I'm going to go with UConn. Now, guys, of course.
Wow, I did not see that one coming, my friend.
I'm very sold. I'm a big Kevin Ollie fan. And to me, one of the favorite quotes that he says is when he was introduced as a head coach, he goes, "We're not going to take the escalator and I'm bringing back this program." He goes, "Cowards take the escalator. You got to take every step towards that way to reach the goal." After he was cutting down the net, when they wanted the Elite Eight, he goes, "I took every step of the ladder, and to me it meant more and more. I took my time up there because it meant a lot. You can't get as far as we have gone by skipping a step." I mean, 2 years apart, same exact quote. I'm very sold on Kevin Ollie. I understand I'm the lone wolf, but hey, I'm giving Florida the check. Majority rules. Now let's look at our second matchup. Wisconsin versus Kentucky. Wisconsin, Bo Ryan, been a head coach for 38 years. He has over 700 career wins, and this is his first Final Four appearance. Then you go to Kentucky. John Calipari, been a coach for 32 years, over 500 wins. He's been to 5 Final Fours, 2 have been vacated. He was at Memphis at the time. 3 with Kentucky, and in 2012, national championship. Now, what really brings it out is you look at Wisconsin's big 3. They got Kaminsky, Brust, and Decker, a senior, a junior, and a sophomore. You go to Kentucky's big 3. A freshman, and a freshman. Now, what everyone has heralded them as, they're too young, they're not getting it together. But they got hot, and they got their heads on right at the right time, and that's when it all matters. Now, I started with John on this one. Colltey, I'll bring it to you.
All right.
You look at the numbers we got here. Of course, going with points per game, rebounds per game, and assists per game. Wisconsin versus Kentucky. We have the Big Ten, and we have the SEC. Who do you got here?
You know what? I'm going to take Kentucky because even though Wisconsin's numbers look a little bit better, I think Kentucky gets better every game. I think they gain more experience each game too.
Right.
I think Randall is awesome, but I also think Marcus Lee coming in last game, killing it. You know, I think he proved everybody wrong. Yeah, he had 9 points since January. He comes in and kills it in the last game in such a big stage. People are comparing them to the Fab Five, and I think they're going to upset Wisconsin. I think it's going to be a good game.
All right. Dave, what you got?
Last week on Ryan's show, I said this team was very inexperienced. They were going to play Louisville, and I picked Louisville to win the game. My whole bracket is just terrible.
Louisville over Florida winning it all.
But there's one thing that this team is gaining round by round, and that's the experience, like Colltey said. And Wisconsin, I love him. I like Kaminsky. He's playing out of his mind right now. If you want to talk about how well Napier is playing right now, you got to include Kaminsky into that conversation because he's carrying this Wisconsin team. But you got a young team that's playing together as a unit and gaining experience together, and I think that goes a long way. So I'm going to take Kentucky.
John.
I'm going off the board here, and the key for Wisconsin is not Kaminsky. The key for them that opens up their offense, just like Michael Frazier the second opens it up for Florida, how about Trayvon Jackson for Wisconsin? When he isolates, he creates matchup issues. This really is about matchups. If there's ever a game that is all about matchups, this one is about Wisconsin's more deliberate. They're a great defensive team. They're 37th in defense in college basketball. Kentucky's actually just outside the top 80 in defense, but they've turned it on at the right time. And you guys both said it. This team has grown so much in experience. I don't worry about their youth in this situation. Don't give Kaminsky easy looks on the perimeter. I think you make him work hard down low. He's going to score his points, but it's another thing where if he's in on the perimeter, then you don't know where to start. Keep Wisconsin from spreading out this game, from spreading the floor. And if they're using the shot clock up, that could be very important in wearing down Kentucky. This is a Wisconsin team that needs to be deliberately paced, because if you want to run with Kentucky, they'll run with you. Randall's unselfishness is huge. Had 6 assists against Wichita State in that victory. Julius Randle's unselfishness will be huge. If Kentucky can get it down low and they can work off of that, they're the better team on paper. And Bo Ryan, great story. But how about John Calipari? Took tons of criticism. Oh, you don't find John Walls every day. Well, he's found this group, and he deserves all the credit in the world for what he's done in Kentucky. So the criticism of John Calipari, it may never end, but with the freshman class, I give him all the credit in the world. He's developed them. Only took him, 20 weeks or so.
It's amazing. One more point. All 4 of these coaches, they're all striving for something more than just winning this championship. You see Billy Donovan. Mm-hmm. Like John said, no one's really giving him this credit.
Yeah, I don't know where it's at.
John Calipari, he's got all these freshmen. Can he do it? A lot of people are doubting him. No one even had him this far. Same thing with Bo Ryan. A lot of people had them out in the Sweet 16, not even getting there in some brackets. And then Kevin Ollie, like you said, the ultimate underdog story. So all 4 of these coaches, they're chasing after something to prove more than just the championship. I think that's what makes this weekend great.
And I think what all 4 of these teams prove is that seeding means nothing. You got an 8 seed and you got a 7 seed. And it really comes down to it. You got to throw out the brackets. You see how hot these teams have played, and that's how they've gotten this far. What I got to do is I got to go with Wisconsin on this one, and the way I'm going to back it up is I give Bo Ryan's experience. And what he said in one of his press conferences was, I've never had a walk-through practice, because you never walk through a game. Whether they're in a hotel lobby or they're just in their gym at home and they're getting ready to play later that afternoon. They go full speed all the time. And I think Bo Ryan, the experience that he's had, along with his veteran leadership of this team, and Frank Kaminsky is the big man, I really got to take Wisconsin. You see the State Street at Madison, their reaction after they made it to the Final Four, it was madness down there.
Right.
And you just got to look at it, and the student body's very much behind them. I'm not saying Kentucky isn't, but to me, that's what really puts me over the top of Wisconsin. To me, it's a Bo Ryan factor. But what I'm looking for this game, we're going to have a great showing between you could say, of the 2 best big men, of course, with respect to Patrick Young, in the nation, between Kaminsky and Julius Randle.
Right now.
And you got to give it. And Kaminsky obviously can spread the floor, shoots the 3-ball a little better, but Kaminsky, fundamentally, he looks so ready to be an NBA. I got to go with Wisconsin on this one. John, you never gave it your final thought,
what
actually.
is your answer?
You went on your nice spiel, but you never gave us Wisconsin or Kentucky.
41.6 rebounds per game for the Wildcats. Wisconsin is going to have to work their tails off on the glass. I do feel like that if Wisconsin sets the tone in this game, that they win this game. I think it's harder for Kentucky to fight through a deficit. John Beilein is quite a coach, and Michigan is quite a program, and do not take it for granted that Kentucky just got by Michigan. I mean, give that program all the credit in the world, because they lost Mitch McGarry, found a way. I like Kentucky in this game. I just think peaking at the right time. I think they love the fact that they're an 8 seed. They love being in that seat. I think they've got a better shot because they're in that 8 seed, because the mentality completely changes. The key number out of all these things is 0. These kids don't make a dime, and I love the fact and the ability of kids to step up, David, to step up without making a single dollar. It's all effort. It's all toughness. Best time of the year.
Who you got?
Kentucky.
You got?
I got Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Once again, I'm the lone wolf.
That's right.
Majority rules.
we
got
go.
Kentucky and Florida, 3rd matchup this year. It's an all-SEC final. I'm George Balekji, guys. Thank you very much for joining us this evening, alongside David Heim, John Fanta, and Colltey Sheldon. It's March Madness, baby. Get ready for it. And Colltey, since you're the special guest, I'll give you the honors. That's how the chalk talks.